Hello guys, welcome to Cafe at Simplified. Right now we are diving into microeconomics objectives, and for more reference, refer to our more videos because we have already discussed some of them and we are just continuing. So this side are the questions. You can take a minute, first write true or false on all of them, then you start marking yourself. But our answers are not absolute. You're subjected to your ideas and we can comment and share more. So the first one is saying microeconomics is concerned with interactions within the entire economy. And we see that that one is false. Why? Microeconomics is specifically concerned with individuals and business decisions. It's not only about interactions within the entire economy, but why are they interacting for business decisions within an entire economy? Not interactions within the entire economy. Micro is on individual levels or on small family units. That would be more that would be more the domain of macroeconomics, like within an economy. That would be the domain of macroeconomics. So it is especially concerned with individual and business decisions. But here they have put is concerned with interactions within the entire economy. Here they are generalizing the entire economy. That is more of macroeconomics, making it false. Number two, allocative efficiency is achieved in an industry when firms supply those goods and services that provide consumers with a marginal benefit equal to marginal cost of producing those goods and services. We see that that is true. Why? Because allocative efficiency is achieved when the value placed on a product by a consumer is equal to the cost of producing it. That is when we get allocative efficiency. The value you as a consumer you place on it is equal to the cost of producing it. Number three, a market can accurately be described as a place where buyers and sellers meet. Number three, I would actually say false. Why? Because markets can indeed be described this way and they involve transactions. So it is not only meeting, but the reason why are they meeting is what is most important because they have not specified the reason why they are meeting, where marginal cost of production meets consumer demands. So they are meeting for transactions of those businesses. So making number three false. Number four, a public franchise gives the exclusive right to produce a product for 20 years from the date the product is invented. Number four actually is supposed to be false. I said you're allowed to differ, giving your own reason. So number four is supposed to be false. Why? Because public franchise typically do grant exclusive rights for a specific period of time, 10, 20 years, but it is not from the time of inventing the product, it is from the time of signing those agreements. So number five, in a free market, prices do adjust to reconcile scarcity and desires, and that is true. Prices in a free market adjust based on the interplay of supply and demand, reconciling scarcity and desires. So that is number five. Number six, if total revenue is 100, this number five typically means in a free market, prices are determined at the point where we have the scarcity and the desires when people are willing to buy despite the limited resources, but they are having the willingness and the capacity. Number six, if the total revenue is 100 US dollars, explicit costs are 50. Explicit costs are $50 and implicit costs are 30. Then the accounting equation equals to $70. We see that this is wrong. Why? Because uh, the formula is here. Accounting profit equals to total revenue, which is $100 minus explicit cost. Explicit cost here we are given explicit cost 50. So our answer is supposed to be 50. You should note that how the accounting equation differs from the economic equation is that the economic equation equals to total revenue minus explicit cost plus this, there is a bracket here. So it's like minus explicit cost, then minus implicit. While for accounting, it is only minus explicit. So we are going to meet to number 8 actually. Number 7 is saying the average total cost curve crosses the marginal curve at the minimum of the marginal cost curve. That one is false. You can refer to those curves. You realize that this you realize that when you refer to that curve, the average total cost crosses the marginal curve when the marginal cost is rising, not when it is at its minimum. You can refer to those diagrams. Number 8, accounting profits are always less than economic profits. We see accounting profits. Now you look at this question. They are saying they are always less than economic profits. We see that the economic profits, that is the answer is supposed to be from here. Economic profits do not consider all costs. For economic profits do consider all costs, like what I said. Economic profits, the formula is here. We get explicit cost plus implicit cost, but we subtract them. That means we are subtracting this and this. So economic profit equals total revenue. Then this one also equals total revenue for accounting. But here this one subtracts two things, making accounting profit always greater. Is that what they have said? The accounting profits are always less than economic profits. So let us see, since economic profit includes both explicit and implicit, and accounting profit only includes explicit costs, economic profit will usually be smaller, while accounting profits will generally be larger. So accounting profits, we have proved that it is always larger. And so accounting profits are always less than economic profits. Number 8 is false. Number 8 making it false. Why? Because the reason here is like this. Economic profits do consider all costs. That means they are smaller, these economic profits, because they subtract. In economic profits, we subtract explicit costs, then minus explicit, implicit and explicit, making it, if the total revenue was here, let's say 100, and we have this and this, so we'll add 50 plus 30, we get 80, so we get 100 minus 30 when we are finding accounting profits, making accounting profits always less, not making economic profits always less than accounting profits. For accounting profits, we'll get only 50, 100 minus 50, and we have 50. But if we are getting economic profit, we'll get 100 minus 50 minus 30, and we get 20. That would be the economic profit. So economic profit is always less. And here they were saying in the question, accounting profits are always less than economic profits. That is false. Number 8. So we come to number 9. The observation, as the price of goods falls, buyers buy more of it, is best known as consumer surplus. We see number 9 is false. Although the statement is having some truth that as prices of goods fall, buyers buy more of it, that is true, but the concept is not consumer surplus. Refer to the notes. Say that consumer surplus is the extra gain. Consumer surplus is the extra gain enjoyed by a consumer from buying less than what he expected to buy at in terms of prices. Number 10 is saying, under the kinked demand curve model of oligopoly, the demand curve is elastic below the prevailing price. We see that number 10 is true. Number 10 is true. The kinked demand curve does indeed suggest that the demand curve is more elastic below the prevailing price. Number 11, under the second degree discrimination. Now you can read about the degrees of discrimination, but in the second degree, the supplier has knowledge about what you want to buy at how much and all that. So and we are on number 10. Under the think no, number 11. Under the second degree discrimination, the seller knows the demand curve, true, for each buyer and charges each consumer at a different price equal to their willingness to pay. Number 11 is true. The second degree price discrimination does involve charging different prices to different consumers based on their willingness to pay. Number 12. Positive economic studies objectives, expectations of the working of the economy. Positive economics, true, studies objective expectations of the working of the economy. Number 12 is true. Number 12, I don't have it here. So we see that number 12 is what? Is true. And won't type the reason, but we are saying positive economics studies objective expectations of the working of the economy. It studies what is really on ground. Yeah, it is the reason. It evaluates what is on ground, not based on assumptions. The reality of the economy. Number 13, the combination of the factor inputs along an isoquant give the same level of output. The combination of factor inputs along an isoquant, iso means equal quantity, give the same output. We see that number 13 is true. Isoquants represent combination of inputs that yield the same level of output, demonstrating efficient use of resources. Number 14, a production technique is technically efficient if there is no other way to make a given output using less of one input and more of the other inputs. We see that that is false. Reason, production technique is technically efficient if no input quantities can be reduced without increasing some other input quantity. Production technique is technically efficient if no input quantities. It means this production technique works best if we are not going to increase input quantities like land, capital, and yet we will produce the same amount. That is when it is efficient. So it means a technique is technically efficient if using the same input quantities will increase its production of the output. So number 15, if the demand curve is nonlinear, the marginal rate is twice as steep as the demand curve. Number 15 is false. 15 I don't put. Number 15 we are saying all these answers stand your test of they're subjected to your criticism and we can share reasons. Yeah. 15 is saying if demand curve is nonlinear, the marginal curve is twice as steep as the demand curve. We see in linear, it is where we have the marginal curve being twice. Yeah. If it is linear, then the marginal curve is twice as steep as the demand curve. Here they are saying in the demand linear curve, the marginal revenue is indeed as twice as steep as the demand curve. However, if the demand curve is nonlinear, the relationship between the demand curve and the marginal revenue is not necessarily twice as steep. Number 16, the demand curve of a normal good is derived from the price consumption curve and will always be positively sloped. The demand curve of a normal good is derived from the price consumption curve and will always be positively sloped. Number 16, we see that is false. Why? The demand curve of a normal good, we know very well, is always negatively sloped, not positively sloped, which reflects that higher prices typically lead to low quantities demanded. Remember, if you do a demand curve, it is negatively downward sloping, meaning the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded. So, demand curve for a normal good, and that curve is always for a normal good, is derived from price consumption curve will always be positively sloped, which is wrong. It is supposed to be negatively sloped. The price consumption curve, the level at which people are consuming what they demanded. Number 17, an I don't know how to pronounce this. Ingro curve shows different levels of consumption at various prices of commodities. We see that that is true because all these Ingro curves show consumption, but at various prices. Go and study about that and make more research. Yeah, describe how consumption varies with changes in income, but this is also important to note. Changes with income, but at different levels of prices. Yeah, so that is what you should note about these Ingro curves. I don't know if I pronounce it right. They describe consumption, but this consumption varies with changes in income and at different price levels. Number 18, the income consumption curve of cars and fuel under indifference curve approach is negatively sloped. We have cars and fuel. Look at the income consumption is negatively sloped. That means it confirms to that means it the income consumption curve for cars and fuel is generally positively sloped under the indifference curve approach, reflecting that as income increases, consumption of normal goods increases. Yeah, if you are to use this, the higher the income, the higher the. This one does not, however, relate to incomes, but in income consumption curve, whenever it is positive, it looks like the supply curve. Whenever it is positive, looking like the supply curve, it means the income consumption curve of cars is generally positively sloped under the difference, reflecting that as income increases, yeah, you relate with the supply curve. When price increases, refer to quantity demanded or quantity supplied. Yeah, consumption of normal goods also increases. When income increases, when price increases, quantity supplied also increases. So related to that, because the more people have their money, the more they will buy those cars and fuel correspondingly. Yeah. Number 19, the isocost is the theory of production. The isocost is to theory of production, equal cost production, which is true, as an indifference curve is to the theory of consumption, which is true. Number 19 is true. Isocost line in production theory is analogous or is similar to the indifference curve in consumption theory, each helping to describe the combination of factors or goods that cost the same or give the same level of utility respectively. Come to number 20. The shape and slope of an isoquant depends on the rate at which one input factor can be substituted for another input to produce the same level of output. We see that is very true. The shape of and slope of the isoquant equal quantity do depend on the rate of substitution, which reflects flexibility in input use. 21. Concave indifference curve has an increasing marginal rate of substitution, and the consumer will be willing to give less of an abundant commodity to gain extra unit of a scarce commodity. Number 21 is true. We should note this statement. A consumer will be willing to give less. It means will be willing to give less of an abundant commodity to gain an extra unit of a scarce commodity. An indifference curve has an increasing marginal rate of substitution, which is true, and the consumer will be willing to give less of an abundant commodity. It means like the consumer is not willing to give, the consumer will be willing to give less. Willing to give less is like he's not willing to give up on the abundant commodity in order to gain an extra unit of a scarce commodity. That is what I get or understand by that. So that is 20 dash where are we? An indifference curve 21 has an increasing marginal rate of substitution. This is true, and the consumer will be willing to give less of an abundant commodity, will be willing less, will not be willing, which is also true. Like will be willing less is like will not be willing to give an abundant commodity to gain an extra unit of a scarce one, which is true. 21 here we are saying a concave indifference curve does indicate an increased marginal rate of substitution. We said true, meaning a consumer is willing to give up less of one good to get more of another as they consume more of it. So if my explanation resonates with that. Consumer, a concave indifference curve does indicate an increasing marginal rate of substitution, meaning a consumer is willing to give up less of one good, so the consumer is willing to give up less of that good if at one case he's getting more of the other. Number 22, the demand curve of a normal good is equal to the positive part of the marginal utility curve under the cardinal utility approach. False. The demand curve of a normal good is equal to positive part. So explanation here, the demand curve of a normal good does not relate directly to the positive part. I think you remember that it is negatively sloping the demand curve. I think you remember that. This is what it makes the statement already false. The demand curve of a normal good is equal to the positive part. Normal good? No, it is negative. Of the marginal utility curve under cardinal utility approach. So the demand curve of a normal good does not relate directly to the positive part of the marginal utility approach. Demand curves are typically downward sloping, reflecting increased quantity demanded as price increases. And lastly, command economy. Command is the same as planned. Yeah, decides resource allocation by government planning. Me, I would say actually true. A command economy decides resource allocation by government planning. The statement is oversimplistically misleading because the command economy involves direct government control over all economic and resource decisions, which is not about decision allocation. The command economy decides resource allocation by government planning. I'll transfer and make this statement actually true because we are only looking at the aspect of what? We are only looking at the aspect of resource allocation in the command economy is entirely done by the government. True. Command economy is completely government control is completely government controlled, and so resource allocation is done by the government. Thank you. Remember to subscribe and stay tuned for more recordings as we go through these objectives.